We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
Good morning and welcome to the Friday Farcast. I'm Robert Phoenix. I'm your host, and I'm on the how do I say this? I'm not on the injured reserve list because that would mean that I couldn't suit up and play today. I'm playing through pain. That would be the equivalent language. I'm playing through pain. About sometime on Tuesday, came down with a terrific. Now, I'm not saying terrific in the sense that, oh, this is great, this is really terrific. I came down with a pretty excruciating back issue, and I won't bore you with the details. Everybody's got pain these days, either internally or externally, so or emotionally or physically. But anyway, I'm just letting you know that I've suited up, and I'm here, and I'm ready to go to tackle the big issues of the day. And what are those big issues of the day? Well, today is the 11th of May. It is 5/11. Always a special day when we have that 11 number coming into our consciousness. 4/11, 3/11, 9/11, 11/11. This year, we're going to get 12/11/12, which will be interesting because then it goes to 12/12/12. Hey, can you say Mayan calendar? And then 12/21/12. So December, in terms of numerology, brings us some very significant and interesting things on some level. Excuse me, I'm about to cough. And I have to cough gently because if I cough too hard, my lower back explodes into paroxysms of discomfort. So anyway, you know, I don't understand how people can go through life with chronic pain. I just don't. I mean, I'm kind of a wimp. I've got like 5 days of lower back pain. That's pretty rough. But I know people that just go through a lifetime of chronic pain. I don't know how they do it. I'd probably shoot myself if I had lived like this for the rest of my life, to be honest with you. And I won't. I'm going to be proactive with this. I'm going to drop in on a little acupuncture between noon and 1 today. So here we are. It is 5/11, and I think that the big news. Excuse me. The big news item of the day and perhaps the week is Barack Obama's about face. Not even really an about face. Sideways glance on gay marriage. Or same-sex marriage, whatever you want to call it. So this is an interesting political move on his part. And why is it that I don't have a lot of respect for liberals and progressives? I don't have a lot of respect for hardcore conservatives either, because they just seem to be so heartless. Hardcore progressives and liberals seem to be so mindless in some ways. Because, and I've got a lot of progressive friends on Facebook, and some of whom I really like. They're decent people. I've known them for a long time. Some of them I don't know, and it's one of those, hey, you're a friend of a friend, and, you know, how are we friends? Well, I'm not even sure. But I've just watched how quickly they just became seduced by this whole, you know, Obama coming out for gay marriage thing. It's like the love affair is back on. The rush to the head is back on. They're swooning. You know, oh, here's our man. He's coming on. You know, he's doing everything he needs to do right now to let us know that he's with us and he can be reelected and counted on. And I just watch these people, and I just scratch my head. And I'm like, where have you been for the last almost 4 years? Have you not seen what's gone on? Don't you understand that he, you know, signed the Food Safety Act into law? You know, this is one of the most heavy-duty bills that was written by Michael Taylor, who used to work at Monsanto. I mean, the Food Safety Act was co-written by Monsanto, and it makes local farming and local producers, you know, really, and puts them in jeopardy because of the amount of money it will take for them to get their products tested and approved. They're pricing them out of the market. It's kind of like the NAFTA for local growers. Don't they understand that? Don't they understand that this is the guy that rubber stamped the NDAA? Don't they understand that? I mean, there's so many things that have gone on during the Obama administration that it blows my mind. Unemployment is up, gas prices are up, although they're falling now. The closer we get to the election, better get your driving in, folks. That's all I can say. And we've gotten involved in more conflicts abroad than ever before with Barack Obama. But that's okay. As long as he, you know, is down with gay marriage, you know, hey, sound the trumpets and rally the troops. I don't, maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I'm the guy that, you know, that has the problem, because I see it very differently. I see it as being incredibly cynical. You know, and I mean, look, he runs Hillary Clinton out there. Oh, yeah, hey, gay marriage, right on. What's wrong with that? If you don't like it, suck it up. Then there's Biden making the great gaffe, running cover. And so all they were doing is they were just gauging what the response would be from people in the media and people that would be outside the media, constituents and certain sectors of their quote-unquote voting bloc. It was just a complete and cynical ploy that these two people would come out and be in favor of gay marriage privately or publicly now. And so now they say, okay. They both got away with it. Here comes the president. Now the president comes out and says, hey, I'm all for it. But what you don't understand about the president, what he says, is that if you are in favor of gay marriage and you want this thing to happen, basically what Obama has said is which is typical Obama. He said, I'm for gay marriage. I'm in favor of gay marriage or same-sex marriage, but it needs to be settled by the states. Now, there are 44 states in the union that do not allow for gay marriage. So that's 44 cases, theoretically, that will have to go before the highest courts in each and every individual state. Now, there is a clause in the Constitution which theoretically could have a lot of merit in the Supreme Court. So if Obama wanted to, he could make this theoretically a federal mandate and go after it and push it from a federal mandate. And maybe that's what he'll do when he gets into office again, or if he does. But he's not. So what he's doing is he's basically front-running and waving a very pink flag, pink, white, and blue. And at the same time, he's pushing it back on the states, which is typical. It's typical Obama. This is what he does. So if you're a same-sex marriage advocate, I'm not sure you can be in favor of this because in a lot of ways, it's really cowardly. But they'll say, oh, we'll take it where we can get it. It's okay. We'll take it where we can get it. It's just, he can't really, he can't really go there yet. He's got a master plan. One of the biggest issues around same-sex marriage that Barack Obama will face are two major voting blocks. One is lesser than the other. Conservatives forget it. Conservatives will never vote for him. He's not worried about them. It's the Latino community who is, by and large, very heterosexual. And I'm not saying that it's, and in a lot of ways, very anti-homosexual, but not nearly as anti-homosexual as the black community. The black community is very anti-gay marriage because what's really weird is that for the most part, the black community is socially progressive but morally conservative. So they're in favor of entitlements. They're in favor of, things like Head Start and WIC and welfare and getting they're in favor of stuff like that because it helps them, quote unquote, get a leg up, or it's the social contract, it's the social web that allows them to not fall through the cracks. It's understandable. I get it. So they're in favor of that kind of relationship, socially and progressively, because the Democrats are always forwarding those programs. However, on an emotional and even religious level, they're far more conservative. So for him to come out and directly say, that I'm really in favor of this, I'm going to do everything I can in my power to make this happen, he could potentially alienate two very strong voting blocks. Although I do believe, look, I checked the ID of somebody the other day, not randomly. There was a context for it, okay? And it was a woman from Mexico. She showed me her ID. And her ID was a voter's card, a United States voter's card, okay? This woman's not even a citizen. And she's got a voter's card, which allows her to go vote. So those people, they'll be moved along. They'll be told what to vote. It's like, here, check these boxes. Go get, go get your money. Go get your free dental care. Go get your free health care. Just do us a favor. Just go out and vote. When we tell you to vote, you just vote where we're going to tell you to vote. That's how that is. It's a little different in the black community. In fact, it's a lot different in the black community, to be honest with you. So here he is. He's out there. Hey, gay marriage. Make it happen. But do it. Make sure the states do it. He doesn't have the testicular fortitude to say, hey, let's make it a federal issue and let's go all the way. So that's the big news this week. Popularity soaring, big fundraiser down in Los Angeles, fronted by George Clooney, member of the Council on Foreign Relations, globalist, NWO, feel-good, party, playboy, change agent. Big whoop. Aren't we tired of these people? Aren't we just tired of them? I'm tired of them. I'm tired of seeing George Clooney. I'm tired of seeing Angelina Jolie. I'm tired of seeing Matt Damon. I'm tired of these people. Hell, I'm even tired of Ted Nugent, even though I think Ted Nugent is mildly interesting, more interesting than George Clooney. I hate to say it. Ted Nugent actually does a lot for troops that come home from the war that are all, screwed up. Does a lot for them. Now, it'd probably be better if he, came out, quote unquote, against the war versus taking care of the guys that have been damaged by the war. But if he's going to do something, why not do that? Okay. But I'm tired of these people. Just go away. Please, go away. You're not interesting. I'm not interested in your super uber playboy bachelor life on Lake Como with Stacy Keibler, the former WWF girl, who's taller than you. I'm tired of it. Go away. Just all go away. I mean, haven't we hit the oversaturation point of celebrity in our culture? From the Octomom to George Clooney, I'm just sick and tired of them. Sick and tired of them. And we're hammered over and over and over and over again with their sanctimonious messaging. And they're all playing for the same team. Let's face it. Even on the right, some of those guys are playing for the same team too. I'm not sure Ted is. I don't know what Ted's game is. He seemed very offended over this latest flap with the CIA and Obama and all that stuff. I mean, flabbergasted. I was a Ted Nugent fan when I was a kid, by the way. I was. But I knew nothing about Ted Nugent. I just knew he was a kick-ass guitar player. If you were 16 or 17 years old and you weren't a fan of Cat Scratch Fever, I don't know. You had to get your adolescent card revoked. That's just the way it was back then. So anyway, that was the big story for the week. Obama going back on the, not even going back, just coming out. He's coming out on gay marriage. There is quite a large contingency on the internet and in the alternative research world that believes that our president, the executive in chief, is in fact gay himself. And if you follow anything that Larry Sinclair has written, there's quite a bit of theoretical evidence that the guy in the Oval Office hits from both sides of the plate. Now, should that really concern anybody? I mean, theoretically, philosophically, no. But if you're the President of the United States and the perception of you is almost as important as the actual application of your skills and gifts and abilities and all that stuff, right? Wouldn't you think that having the most honest perception would be the safest perception? I mean, look what happened with JFK. Not JFK, J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover was blackmailed because he liked to dress up like women. He was blackmailed. And, he was stopped in his tracks from really going after kind of the highest levels of corruption in the American government. And I'm not just talking about, Al Capone and the mobsters. Those guys were front guys. There was the highest levels of corruption at that time were the infiltration of the Bolsheviks in the United States government. And this whole thing around, the communist threat in the 1950s was quite real, to be honest with you. People laugh it off. Oh, paranoid. Oh, Joe McCarthy. It was real. And, they are, still very much in the mix. And they basically stopped McCarthy and they stopped J. Edgar Hoover in their tracks because they needed to continue the social agenda. So here we are. The outgrowth of that social agenda is a socialist president. So it doesn't really matter at this point, does it? Because even if he theoretically wanted to do the right thing, but he couldn't because he was hiding something in his closet, it wouldn't really matter because he is that guy. He is the guy that is the ultimate iteration of what happened in the 1950s. There are reports that that Russian troops are now training with American troops in the United States for these terrorist drills and terrorist activities. This is nothing new. Russian troops have been here since the 90s once the Great Wall came down in Berlin, the Berlin Wall came down, and once communism, quote unquote, ended, Russian troops began to come here, and they've been here for quite a while. Chinese troops have been here for a while too, and they're training too. We've got all kinds of troops from all over the world. You know, this whole idea that America is a sovereign nation is just ludicrous. Those days are long gone, boys and girls. Long gone. Ain't happening. As a result of that, or in relation to that, I found a story that was quite interesting. Quite interesting. Let me do this though. Let me read this, and then I'm gonna talk about what's happening in Michigan as it relates to China, which I think is very interesting. So, staying on the Obama tip, the Obama theme, this is from Human Events, Powerful Conservative Voices, and at least the conservatives want to pull the rug back on things, right? Now again, you know, they've got this whole corporate thing wrong. They've got the war wrong. They've got these incursions into foreign countries and the American march towards imperialism, you know, as the armies, as the great corporate armies of the West. They've got that wrong too. But they get some things right. Some. I think the progressives get some things right too. There is a sense of compassion at times with the progressives that you just don't get with the conservatives. But more often than not, they both get things wrong. Okay, so here we go. This is by Jarrett Stepman, and it is from today. And the title of this is President Obama's former doctor claims that the president lacks passion, feeling, and humanity. So here we go. In a revealing new book, The Amateur, author Edward Klein interviews President Barack Obama's physician, Dr. David Shiner, MD, who blasts the president's health care plan and says that President Obama has an academic detachment that he could never break through. Well, if you've read that, this is me now editorializing, if you read the story about his composite girlfriend that exists in a history of compressed events, the same thing is being said about him. Like, oh, making love with him was inevitable. It was like very detached. The doctor fears that if the health care plan is the failure he believes it will be because of runaway costs and other problems, then any health reform will be set back for years to come. These are only a few of many reveals in Klein's book, which makes the case that President Obama is not the political machine that people fear, but an amateur with a messianic complex who is completely out of his depth. In an exclusive preview of The Amateur by Human Events, Obama's longtime physician reveals the lack of humanity in Obama's character and carelessness with which he enacted the entirely politicized health insurance reform, the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, often called Obamacare. Shiner said that he believes the president miscalculated politically and that the health reform is ultimately doomed to fail. Worse, Shiner doubts the character of a man who holds the highest and most influential office in America. I think there's too much of the University of Chicago in him, by which I mean he's academic, lacks passion and feeling, and doesn't have the sense of humanity that I expected. The author, Klein, later in the book compares Obama's personality to the early 20th century progressive president, Woodrow Wilson, by quoting the historian Forrest McDonald, who called Wilson's perception of himself a little short of messianic. Klein says that McDonald's description of Wilson fits Obama to a T. The Amateur is set to be released on Tuesday, May 15th. It is published by Regnery Publishing, owned by Eagle Publishing, which also owns Human Events. So they're basically they're pimping their own book. In the chapter titled Hollow at the Core, Obama's former physician, who is a liberal, blasts the president for being uncaring and perhaps worse, incompetent. He has no control. There would be no effective cost control, said Shiner. The Congressional Budget Office said it's going to be incredibly expensive. And the thing that I'm incredibly worried about is if it is a failure, that I think it will be, then health reform will be set back a long, long time. Shiner said that the Obama administration neglected the advice of real physicians and instead decided to let political operatives craft Obama's signature health care law. People like Obama's former chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel's brother, Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel, were the kinds of medical people that the White House consulted. If you know anything about Ezekiel Emanuel, you know that he is the closest description and definition of a eugenicist that shows up on the public Rolodex. His ideas around who gets health care and why are very, very dangerous. And Shiner says Ezekiel is a medical oncologist and not a general physician. The point that Shiner was trying to make is that President Obama lacks the ability to understand the critical role of the doctor-to-patient interaction, just as he fails to connect to people personally. So what he's saying here, again, I'm editorializing, is that there is an institutionalization of the consciousness of Barack Obama, that he is a manifestation of institutionalized thinking, because he references the University of Chicago. You know, we're talking about academia. We're talking about new criticism. I'll talk about new criticism in a second, because new criticism, or the new school of criticism, was something that I was indoctrinated in college, and this has a lot to relate. This relates a lot to what the author here is talking about. So I'll get into that after this. Okay. My main objection to Barack Obama is that he is a great speaker and a lousy communicator. Is that interesting? He isn't getting his message across to people. He isn't showing that he really cares. To this day, he hasn't communicated with members of Congress. He won't. He won't. Shiner and other interviewees in the Amateur believe that President Obama has been a failure as a president, that he has failed to live up to the hype and has left a trail of betrayals in his wake. If I were somebody, this is me again, if I were somebody that had voted for that guy and believed in that guy, my dreams, my hope would be crushed. And no wonder I would be elated, you know, by some really tenuous twig that I'd be handed, you know, as I'm hanging off of a cliff. Here's a little twig that's being handed to me. Hold on to this. I'm in favor of gay marriage. While I'm about to drop 3,000 feet below, right, or 1,500 feet below, whatever. I'd grab onto that twig like my life depended upon it, if I had voted for him with all my heart and soul and, you know, body, mind, spirit, and being and all that stuff. Of course, you'd want to hang on to this kind of feel good so you'd be validated. Oh, I wasn't a complete fucking idiot. I wasn't a complete fool. Thank you. Thank you for giving me something to hang on to. Shiner and other interviewees in the Amateur believe that President Obama has been a failure. He's president. He's failed to live up to the hype and has left a trail of betrayals in his wake. Although Obama and Shiner did not have a close relationship, Shiner was clearly upset by how he was cut off when Obama became president. So this guy was Obama's doctor. Obama invited his barber to his inauguration. His barber. But I wasn't invited. Believe me, that hurt. Okay, so now some people could say sour grapes. But this guy was left out of the party. Boo-hoo. No wonder he's coming out. He didn't get taken to the White House. So he was a progressive, though. He says in the chapter Hollow to the Core, Obama's former physician, who is a liberal, blasts the president for being uncaring and perhaps worse, incompetent. So I don't know. Is sour grapes? Maybe. Woodrow Wilson was a disaster, and Woodrow Wilson was the worst thing, absolute worst thing that ever happened to this country happened on Woodrow Wilson's shift, which was the creation of the Federal Reserve, the enactment of federal taxation, and getting us into World War I, the first of our major global conflicts, which we have not ceased in taking part in since then. 1913 was the coup of America. So it's an interesting relationship between Barack Obama and Woodrow Wilson, for sure. And not a good one, obviously. So on the flip side, what do we have? We've got Mitt Romney, related to Barack Obama, apparently, through the Bush bloodline, because Bush and Obama are cousins. I'm sorry, well, they are cousins. Bush and Romney are even closer cousins. But Bush and Obama are cousins as well. So Barack Obama is related, theoretically, to Mitt Romney. If you buy the bloodline lineage and the information. Now, it could be one of those things that could be a real psyop, right? Like, oh, yeah, see, they're all related to these really powerful people. Ooh, they're related to Vlad the Impaler and Charlemagne and King Henry I and Ramses II. Yes, they're related to all these people. So, let's bow before them. Of course. No wonder there are elected officials, because they're the chosen ones based on their bloodline. I mean, it could all be a lie, right? And maybe that's not the case at all. I'm just throwing it out there. Or maybe it's the truth, in which case it's still creepy. And when you really drill down and look at Obama and Romney, they're the same. They have the same views on everything. Does that surprise you? Does that really surprise you? They're just lining them up. Choice 1, choice 1A. There's no difference. None whatsoever. The only difference is that with Romney, you would get more of a corporate iron fist than Obama, which would be the private and governmental iron fist. But you're still going to get an iron fist either way. It doesn't really matter. Now, there's Ron Paul. He's lurking. He's lurking in the shadows. And Ron Paul poses a pretty interesting dilemma for the Republicans. One of my buddies, Lawrence Holtberg, who I really respect, and some of you might even know him from Facebook. I've known Lawrence for a number of years now. And Lawrence, he's vetted Ron Paul, thoroughly. And Lawrence is a very intuitive guy. He's a really pretty high spiritual individual. And he's somebody who lives his life in the service of truth. And for me, the litmus for Lawrence with that is that Lawrence is Jewish, and he has no problem staring down Israel or his own culture or his own religion and seeing the flaws in it. And I applaud him for that. I think we should all be accountable for our own individual cultures and our own individual religions, and to look at them with excruciating clarity and see where they rise and fall. No matter who we are, no matter what it is, see it for what it is. Because those are the blinders that we live with our lives. And this is where we allow for justification to take place. We justify actions. We justify events based on our cultural bias or our religious bias. And he doesn't. And so hats off to him. And if you know anything about growing up Jewish, it's an intensely communal, tribal, and private experience. And there's a lot of bonding that takes place. And part of that bonding really is an enculturation and an inculcation in a particular worldview. And he's managed to extricate himself from that worldview. So I respect him for that. And as a result of that, when he says to me, hey, I've vetted Ron Paul, then here's a guy that has vetted his own culture. So I tend to listen a little more closely when Lawrence says something. And he believes that Ron Paul is the real deal, and that he's the only way that we can get out of the Romney-Obama conundrum. And I tend to agree with him. Look, you may think that they've got all the exits covered and Ron Paul is just another exit. Maybe. But I would rather try that exit than these other two exits, okay? Because I know what these other two exits are. I know what they're bringing to the table. I know who's going to come to Washington to play with Romney. It's everybody that ever worked for George Bush. That is not inspiring at all. And Romney just got through this flap where, he had to do mea culpa about being an asshole growing up at a private school, at a prep academy. What was Mitt Romney? He was a bully. He was a bully. That's what he was. So now he had to come out and say, well, I'm sorry, I did a few things when I was young. Like anybody else, I didn't think properly. I didn't think clearly. I was dumb, young and dumb. Oh yeah, we beat up a young homosexual guy, but I don't know. I didn't know he was homosexual. How was I supposed to know? It was in the 60s. When you look at Mitt Romney, is there any more of a definition of square, by the way? That guy is so square. L7, man. L7. But he's not an alternative. He's a wrecking ball. Mitt Romney's a wrecking ball. And then you've got Obama. Look what you've had for the past 4 years. You want more of that? Ron Paul could make a serious run at the Republican convention. He has been stockpiling delegates. I think at one point, very early on, they decided to have a very different strategy around getting elected. You need 1,144, which is very close to that magical number of 144,000 souls that the Seventh-day Adventists, or Jehovah's Witnesses, rather, the Jehovah's Witnesses believe will be the ones that will carry on after this world ends and the new world, the world of God begins. It will be the 144,000 souls. Well, you need 1,144 delegates to have the nomination, the Republican nomination. And Ron Paul has been steadily and stealthily acquiring delegates. The delegates, and he's got some very powerful delegate states, and he's just turned. Apparently Nevada is one of them. So Ron Paul theoretically could throw a real wrench into the Romney campaign and program. And it's interesting because the mainstream media has already anointed Romney that guy. Obviously, there's nobody to run against Obama on the Democrat side, although there was a guy in Virginia who he was an inmate in a prison in West Virginia, and Obama narrowly beat him. Amazing. He ran. He's running for president from a prison in West Virginia, and he got 40% of the Democratic vote in West Virginia. So Ron Paul could throw a real monkey wrench in the whole thing. And quite frankly, I'd like to see it. I want to see a monkey wrench. I don't want to see this thing get scripted out and then bang, just allow it to happen. I'm not a fan. I want to see, you know what I want to see? I want to see real chaos. I don't want to see fake chaos. I don't want to see engineered chaos. I want to see real chaos. I want to see the guys that create the chaos have to deal with chaos. Let's see how they deal with chaos. That's what I want to see. Let's see them scramble. Let's see them improvise on the fly. Let's see them reveal themselves as they trip over themselves, trying to, get their speaking points and all their media talking heads all in a row while real chaos is happening. That's what I want to see. I want to have the popcorn sit back and just, hey, that's great. Look at these guys. They think they have it so together. Well, here's some real chaos. Deal with that. I talked about this planned city in Michigan. This is a 200-acre Chinese city. This is from the website, The American Dream. It says a Chinese group plans to construct a 200-acre China city in Michigan. Well, this makes sense. Where's Mitt Romney from? That's right, Michigan. And what's happening with Michigan? Well, Michigan is the state that is literally going back to the land thanks to the exodus of the auto industry, in towns like Flint, Michigan, just literally being deserted and returning to the land. So here we go. A Chinese group known as Sino-Michigan Properties, LLC, has bought up 200 acres of land near the town of Milan, Michigan. Their plan is to construct a China city with artificial lakes, a Chinese cultural center, and hundreds of housing units for Chinese citizens. Essentially, it would be a little slice of communist China dropped right into the heartland of America. This China city would be located about 40 minutes from both Detroit and Toledo, and it would be marketed to Chinese business people that want to start businesses in the United States. Unfortunately, this is not an isolated incident. In fact, Chinese companies have been buying up land and businesses all over the country in recent years. There was even talk of establishing special economic zones inside the United States, modeled after the Chinese city of Shenzhen. It was inevitable that the Chinese were going to do something with the trillions of dollars that they have made flooding our shores with cheap products. Now they are rapidly buying up pieces of America, and many of our politicians are welcoming them with open arms. The town of Milan, Michigan, is a small farming community of only about 6,000 people, but big changes are coming their way. The following is from a recent Dayton Daily News article. A group of mainland Chinese known as the Sino-Michigan Properties, LLC, paid $1.9 million for 200 acres of farmland. $1.9 million. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not a lot of money. That is not a lot of money. $1.9 million. That's chump change. Farmland on Milan city limits and purchases this year and in 2011, according to local officials and property records. Unfortunately, the goal does not appear to be to integrate the new city into the existing community in and around Milan. Rather, it appears that all the new housing will be sold to people coming from China. According to the Milan News Leader newspaper, the new housing units will be marketed to Chinese business people who want to start companies in the United States. In essence, we'll be looking at a new Chinese city right in the middle of Michigan. Doug Smith, Senior Vice President for Business and Community Development for the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, recently said the following about what the Chinese group plans to do. It's a group that wants to build a China city, starting with housing over there in Milan. Milan is not far from the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, which is a very popular destination for Chinese students. Apparently, that is one reason why Milan was chosen. This new project would be a Chinese community built by Chinese and specifically designed for Chinese. But isn't this supposed to be America? Fortunately, the project does not have final approval yet. It still must be approved by the two townships outside of Milan where the land is located. For some reason, the Chinese seem to be particularly interested in this area of the country. You don't want to know why? It's called lakes. Lakes. Water. Water, people. That's why they're interested. For example, a different Chinese investment group has been busy buying up chunks of real estate in nearby Toledo, Ohio. The following is from an article in the Toledo Blade, May 26, 2011. Dashing Pacific Group Limited, which has already purchased the nearby Docks restaurant complex for $2.5 million and put its $3.8 million offer to buy southern 69 acres of the Marina District in East Toledo back on the table for approval by Toledo City Council. Additionally, Dashing Pacific Chairman Yuan Zhuangyang, in a letter signed in Hangzhou, said the firm wants a 2-year option to buy the decommissioned Toledo Edison plant property on the site. So should we be alarmed that the Chinese are buying up pieces of America? Well, if they simply wanted to enjoy living in America and wanted to integrate into the wider community, that would be one thing. But it is another thing altogether to start dropping slices of communist China inside U.S. territory. In a previous article, China wants to construct a 50-square-mile self-sustaining city south of Boise, Idaho. I discussed a potential deal that Sinomoc, a company controlled by the Chinese government, was exploring with the government of Idaho. The following is a description of that potential project. Okay, I read about that a while ago. So here we go. This is what's happening with the United States of America, sold to the highest bidder. That's it. And there's nobody, the reason we are being sold to the highest bidder is because we're vulnerable. It's like the immune system of this country is so taxed that we can't sustain our economic health. Our economic immunity is ravaged. And so you have these places like, Milan, Michigan, eagerly panting for $1.9 million with their tongues out. Yes, please, $1.9 billion for us. Just think what we'll do. That can fund our pensions. Yes, we'll have pensions. Then we can get our kids jobs. Thank you, China. Thank you, China. This is what's happening. Because there's no money. We're not producing anything. The federal government is not if there's money from the federal government, it's Agenda 21 money, it's all strings attached money. That's what's happening. So, what would Ron Paul do? Would Ron Paul allow that? Maybe. He might. Ron Paul is a real corporate guy. That's the downside of Ron Paul. He's big corporation. But it's happening anyway. So, I don't know. I want to see some real chaos. Not phony chaos, real chaos. I want to see people running around trying to cover themselves. That's where I'm at. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to play some music. And when I come back, we're going to turn our attention to the skies. We're going to talk about chemtrails. And I recently discovered or found that vinegar might actually dissipate chemtrails. We're going to look into this. If you've seen it before or you have any thoughts on it, I'm going to play a video. You can call in. Give me your. I know that orgone can be effective against dissipating chemtrail clouds, but the vinegar thing is new. And I'm going to play a video. We're going to talk about vinegar dealing with chemtrails. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about the annular eclipse, which happens on the 20th of May of this month. So let me play some music. Let me play a little Michael Lee Hill, World Testing 1, 2, 3. And then I'll be back in just over 3 minutes, and we're going to get into the vinegar chemtrail experience. And we'll see where that takes us. Some annular solar eclipse and who knows what else. Here's Michael Lee Hill. Okay, here we go. It is 10:50, and just hanging out in the chat room. Big shout out to the best chat room on the internet, as far as I'm concerned. A lot of smart, very turned on folks in there. Let's see, what had happened here? Hold on. One of the chatters, Madison, just posted this. Let's see, yesterday at least 55 people were killed in a double suicide car bombing near an intelligence complex in the Syrian capital, Damascus, which is located at the 33rd parallel. I've written about the 33rd parallel, and Coachella, the Coachella Music Festival is on the 33rd parallel as well. So there's a lot that takes place. So, yeah, the 33rd parallel. Interesting. And yeah, apparently the Olympic torch was lit in Greece yesterday. So we are on for the Olympics, and the Olympics are coming to a ritual theater near you in holographic, in all their holographic horror. The London Olympics are finally here, or they're close to being here. So we have a lot to look forward to with that, absolutely, and obviously. All right, let's get into the chemtrails thing. I found this video. I found this it was a thread on Facebook. So there's this video that there are 18 likes and 16 dislikes. Now, I'm not sure whether this is a scam or not, but let's just go along with me. Kill chemtrails with vinegar. And let me wait for this car to get out of here. All right, so let me just play this. Here we go. Let's see this. So this is he's walking around using a spray bottle.
Hi, everybody. I've been outside for about a half hour now spraying some vinegar solution. And the reason I'm doing this is there's a lot of chem clouds in the sky right now, and vinegar takes care of it. Vinegar gets rid of the chem clouds. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Hold on. See these clouds? They weren't here earlier. They were chemtrails. And then this is what they turned into. These are what they call chem clouds. So what I'm doing is I'm just spraying the vinegar, and the vinegar dissolves the chem clouds. So that's what I'm doing. So I put this thing back. Here we go. All right. So that's what I'm doing. Just spraying it down. Woo! You can smell it. That means it's working.
So that's not the best one. Here we go. Let's try this one. Sorry about that. Let's see. Let me just go to my Facebook page. Hold on. This is the video that I wanted to find. That video, that was kind of ridiculous. Hold on. Let me get here. Here is the chemtrail vinegar video. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see what we got. Here we go. All right. Vinegar kills chemtrails. Here we go. Here's visual and audio material. This is from December 10th, 2011. It's a lot more explicit than the last one. Here we go. Let's try this one.
Is this the answer to ridding yourself of chemtrails? Perfectly. Blue skies, Omaha, Nebraska. The vinegar technique seems to be working. Not one chemtrail, not one chem cloud. This is posted by the Fox, Saturday, December 10th, 2011 on RivermailNews.com. He says, I came across the following and found it to be interesting. It was then followed by doing a YT search, and there's a ton of videos out there all saying it works. I'll be testing it myself only today here in Slovakia. The sky is thick with cloud. At least I think that's what it is. If where you are swimming in chemtrails, please try this at home and send an email as to the results. I'll post your findings afterwards. One of the cheapest ways of healing the atmosphere is vinegar, yes.
I don't know what happened to that. We lost the video on that for some reason. That's lovely. Let's see what else we have here on the chemtrail front. Let's see. Vinegar, protecting yourself from chemtrails. And it's gone. That video is gone. Interesting. So I was watching this on Facebook, and literally Facebook just whited out the video. Absolutely whited out the video. Okay, so apparently, and this is what I have been able to gather from vinegar and chemtrails, is that the vinegar disperses the aluminum and the barium, and the barium it's a salt. It's salt based, and apparently the vinegar disperses that. So there is a Facebook group that is dedicated to vinegar. Okay, so we've all wondered, what can we do about chemtrails? Well, maybe. So here it is. It's when people find out that cooking a mixture of 30% vinegar and 70% water outdoors, of course, actually disperses chemtrails, then the people will have won. So there are recipes for chemtrails, for killing chemtrails. We're dealing with chemtrails with vinegar. And you can look it up. And apparently, so what's really interesting too is that the other video that I was looking for through the same person, that's gone too. But there is a vinegar chemtrail group on Facebook. So if you want to play with this, I would recommend it. Go look around, do some YouTube searches, cruise around on Facebook. It's worth checking out. Let me see if I can find the original video. I really want to find the original video. So here we go. There's a map where they've actually instituted vinegar from the sky. It's a satellite map, and it says biggest vinegar party ever. There's going to be a big vinegar thing on the 11th. It's called the International Vinegar Party, and it's happening on the 11th through the 13th. So that's this weekend. Here are the rules for the International Vinegar Party. Take a few bottles of vinegar and spill it on the asphalt. You can spray vinegar outdoor. You can mix vinegar and water and put old clothes in it. Here we go. Hold on, so I can find it. And put the old clothes to the mix. Then let it dry outside, or take the clothes in the car. Open your windows and drive 10 to 20 kilometers. Boil vinegar and water in your kettle. You can steam it with a humidifier. And that could be really interesting in terms of dealing with chemtrails on the inside of your house. It says, for the best results, mix 1 liter of vinegar with 4 liters of water. This rule not for spilling on the asphalt. So this weekend is the International Vinegar Party from the 11th through the 13th. So try it out. Get some vinegar, throw it on the asphalt, boil some vinegar outside, and let's see if we can clear the sky up. Now, what could be interesting is maybe, just maybe, they won't be spraying chemtrails this weekend, right? So it'll spoil the vinegar party. But look, I think this is an absolutely interesting new strategy to deal with the decrepit nature of chemtrails. And let me put this in the chat room. I'll just throw this in the chat room. So here we go. Let's do this. Here we go. That is the group, okay? So vinegar, boys and girls, vinegar and orgone. Yes. Let's try it. Why the hell not? Why the hell not? What do we have to lose, right? I can just see it now. 3 months from now. In a recent finding, the FDA has discovered that there are long-term effects from using vinegar. You can just see it now. Somebody comes out. Well, vinegar leads to an acidic nature in the body. And we're really concerned that vinegar could be detrimental to humans in the long term. Quietly, members in Congress on Capitol Hill are discussing the effects of vinegar and how vinegar might actually be outlawed or banned. Think of it. You might have to procure a license in the future to be able to purchase vinegar from the store. Or here's the other piece, right? Here would be the other piece. The other piece would be, this would be much more likely. The FBI recently dashed the hopes of a group of terrorists who were making a vinegar bomb. It's been discovered that vinegar has very explosive properties when fermented and then added to a concoction of baking soda and chicken manure. Yes, 3 men were planning on unleashing a vinegar bomb in downtown Miami sometime during the summer. I mean, can you just see that? Now you'd have to have a license to purchase vinegar. Anyway, vinegar is where it's at. Try it this weekend, the vinegar party. You got clouds? Let the vinegar flow. And the thing about vinegar, it's cheap. White vinegar, not that much money. Okay, do I have anything more to say? Oh, the annular eclipse. I wanted to talk about the annular eclipse just a little bit. I was looking at it, and it's kind of intense in some ways. I'm going to do more of a blown-out post on this, but the annular eclipse is pretty intense. It's going to be taking place, looks like here on the 20th of May, and so anaretic degree Sun Taurus, anaretic degree Moon Taurus, very challenging degrees, extremely challenging degrees. And then it's Mercury in Taurus, Jupiter in Taurus, and also Black Moon Lilith in Taurus. A lot of fixity. And one of the things that a lot of fixed energy in the sky or as part of an event will facilitate is locking in an activity. So theoretically, if you were doing a quote-unquote ritual or something like that on the annular eclipse on 5/20, you'd have all that fixed energy which would lock that experience in. So that's what we're dealing with all that fixed energy. Just out of curiosity, I haven't done it yet. I'm going to do more of this. I just started to kind of play with the annular eclipse today. Let's go to the Sabian symbols for 29 Taurus, just for shits and giggles, as they say. Interesting. You know, Dane Rudyard was kind of a Luciferian, by the way. I like his work. He's really bright, but he's a Luciferian. Theosophical, Alice Bailey Luciferian. So the 30 degree for the Sabian symbol, Taurus, because that's where it would be, is a peacock parading on the terrace of an old castle. So this is the personal display of inherited gifts, which would really be, right at the alley of kind of an elite ritual, right? A great person able to display a multitude of gifts is always, at one level or another, the consummation of a long past of efforts and victories. As a great occultist once wrote, adepts are the flowering of their races and cultures. Does that not sound theosophical? So the peacock is the bird consecrated to Venus, a.k.a. Lucifer. In occult tradition, the Promethean spirits who gave to animal mankind the divine gift of self-conscious intelligence had come from Venus, which may or may not refer to the physical planet we can observe in the sky. This is the final symbol of the fourth scene, whose keyword has been given as confirmation. The peacock symbol indeed confirms the social status of the owner of the ancestral estate. It indicates a consummation of individual efforts, and it suggests that such a consummation is hardly possible except when a line of ancestors, biological or spiritual, forms its base. So we began today's show talking about bloodlines and the hierarchy of bloodlines in presidential candidates, and we will end today's show accordingly with the 30 degree Sabian symbol, which is the peacock on an estate, which speaks to Venus and the spiritual ancestry of elite progeny. And that's all happening on the annular solar eclipse. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a coming out party. So get ready, stay prepared, stay conscious, stay alive, stay focused, stay in touch with your will, and more importantly, stay listening to this program. Because if you don't listen, then I've got nothing to do. That's important to me. Okay? All right. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix, and you've been listening to the Friday Farcast. I'll be back on Monday with the mashup. Oh, by the way, I'll give you a little update. I wanted to give you an update before I sign off on the Gill Tract. So what happened with the Gill Tract, I had Anya on Monday. Well, the UC cops came in and they locked them in. They've now created a prison of the Gill Tract. Think about that. The UC has barricaded the environment and they won't let these people out. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. And they've also decided to file a lawsuit against the occupiers of the Gill Tract. So there we go. Here's your Gill Tract Occupy update, as depressing as it might be. All right, so use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. You've been listening to the Friday Farcast, and I'll see you guys on Monday. Have a great vinegar weekend. Adios.